Update. This is a meeting of the Commission on Post-Mortem. Update. This is a meeting of the Commission on Post-Mortem Examinations. And today's date is Monday, April 22, 2024. The time is at 10:43 a.m. We are meeting at the AG second floor conference room at the ITC building. I will call the meeting to order, and we shall do a roll call of the 5 members of the Commission on Post-Mortem Examinations. My name is Douglas Moylan, holding the position of Attorney General of Guam. Stephen C. Ignacio.
Present.
Thank you. Peter John Camacho.
Present.
Thank you. And Mr. Camacho, you're holding the Acting Director of the Guam Department of Public Health and Social Services.
Yes.
Thank you. I understand Lillian Perez Posadas could not be present today. She's off island, but she has a representative here. She is the position of the Administrator of the Guam Memorial Hospital Authority. Dr.
Present. My name is Dr. Dustin Prince, and I'm the Acting Hospital Administrator of Guam Memorial Hospital Authority.
Thank you. And we also have Dr. Shea, who could not be present, but I guess he has a person that's here to take notes via Zoom. Can that person please identify himself?
I'm Dr. Beeling.
Thank you, Dr. Beeling. What position are you in, if I may inquire?
I'm a staff physician at GMH for labor and delivery.
And is this with the Guam Medical Association? Do you hold a position there?
I'm a secretary treasurer of the Guam Medical Association.
Thank you. Dr. Beeling, your first name is Christopher?
Well, socially I go by Chris. My full name it's German, it's Friedrich Christoph Beeling. So Chris is my middle name.
Thank you. We also have others in attendance, but we shall be identifying them as we move forward. So in conformance with the open government compliance, I have Deputy Fred Nishihiro.
SAG, first you do have a quorum. And with regard to compliance with the open government law, the staff has put together and published the government procurement package, which is located on page 7 to 2 of your packet, both for the newspaper as well as the portal required for YouTube, which is really running right now.
Thank you. So to, I guess, make this clear in the initial, we understood that Administrator Lillian Posadas and President of the Guam Medical Association, Dr. Shea, would not be present. So we have a quorum of 3 board members, myself, Chief Ignacio, and Director Peter John Camacho. So the 4th item on our agenda is the approval of the prior minutes dated December 20, 2022. Has the members taken a look at those minutes? And do we have a motion to approve subject to correction? And that is part of our packet. The last meeting, I understand, was December 20, 2022, under General Camacho, Stephen Camacho at the time. I was not a member at that time.
General Wallet, I move to approve, subject to corrections.
Thank you. Is there a second? And any objections? No objections. We move on. Approve it subject to corrections. Under the 5th item on the agenda, we have old business. I understand that there is no old business that's pending. So we'll move on to the new business under item 6. The first item is the election of the chairman and vice chairman. So I will open the floor. Are there any nominations for the election of the chairman?
Chair one, I move to nominate Attorney General Douglas Williams.
Thank you.
Chair.
Thank you. Is there any, we're at the minimum, bare minimum of 3, so is there anyone that's second?
I check.
Thank you. Any discussion on it? Thank you. So we'll take the vote on that. If you would raise your right hand for the election of myself as the chairman of the Commission on Post-Mortem Examinations, please raise your hand. Thank you. So the quorum is 3. It's unanimous of the quorum of the 3 members here. Thank you, fellow board members, commission members. Now for the vice chairman. Do we have a nomination for vice chairman?
Attorney Holmes, I'd like to nominate Captain Stephen or Chief Stephen.
Thank you. Thank you. I second that nomination. Any discussion? So if we can indicate by the raising of our right hands for Chief Steve Ignacio as the Vice Chairman of the Commission on Post-Mortem Examinations. Unanimous of the 3 here. Thank you, gentlemen. The next item on the agenda is reports and updates. We have Dr. Jeffrey Nine to my left, the Chief Medical Examiner, and I'll turn over the floor to him.
Thank you, General Moylan. The only update I really have right now is, I think everyone knows I'll be leaving the island permanently. My last physical day on the island will be April 29th. I'll be leaving the board on April 30th. I plan to take the rest of my annual leave to finish out my contract here, which will be May 17th. Last physical day under my current contract. I have submitted a request for revision of my contract to General Moylan and Administrator Casadas with my recommendations to stay on as the Chief Medical Examiner or Acting Chief Medical Examiner from a remote capacity, so I can manage the office in conjunction with Johanna and Nikki. And we can get into more discussion about that if you prefer later, John Moylan. But basically, I think a large part of the work can be done remotely and the office can be managed remotely. I just don't want to see the work that we've accomplished so far on work and have the office go backwards. I want to make sure that the families and the decedents and everyone involved in funeral homes on Guam get the care that they need as far as death certificates, cremation authorizations, removal from state authorizations. And also as part of that proposal for my revised contract, I will be working with some other forensic pathologists to provide autopsy service for the island.
Thank you, Dr. Nine. It's with great sadness that I hear that that events take you away from Guam. So I just want to express my personal loss to the people of Guam that will not be part of our community in a present form. I would also thank you for the discussions that you've had with me since making that decision, which has been over several weeks, as well as with the legislature's some roundtable discussions that we had recently. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to open this up to the other commission members. Any questions that you might have of Dr. Nine as we discuss the update that he's just given to us.
I do have a question, Joe.
Sure.
Is the request for extension require board action?
I'm sorry. Can we turn on the mic? Can you press the mic? Thank you. Should be green. Thank you. So I'm sorry. Commissioner Camacho, you were saying that does it require board action for which part of it?
For the extension of Dr. Knight's contract?
Yes, it does. I believe it does. We will address that. So one of the items that we'll have to address is the extension modification extension of the current contract as Dr. Nine is proposing. And then other questions?
Dr. Knight, you mentioned you'll be working with other medical examiners to continue to provide forensic pathology services. Are they here? Where are they coming from?
Chief, as you're aware, filling the medical examiner position or getting a forensic pathologist is a difficult proposition for Guam. I have been in contact with some of my professional colleagues. One was Dr. Chitawa from Hawaii. Another one is one of his colleagues who is going to be working in Hawaii. One is a colleague of mine in Ohio, and I believe I can get some other pathologists to assist. But those three I've had verbal commitment from, with the caveat that they would be working under my proposed new contract. If I was not going to stay on as the acting chief or as a chief or in any way managing or coordinating, they said they were not willing to provide the services outside of that framework.
And so just to clarify, when you say you're staying, you would like to, if approved by the commission, you would be staying on to continue to provide oversight to the medical examiner's office via telework or some other type of arrangement where you're not physically here, but still running the office, administering the office.
Yes, I will let General Moreland discuss those specifics, but generally I offered that I would stay at half of my salary that I've been getting, stay on at half of my salary, and I would be managing daily oversight in communication with Johanna and Nikki. A lot of the work, I would say 90% of the work that we do doesn't need me to be actually physically present with the death certificates, the cremation authorizations, the removal from state. Those are the things that before I came caused a lot of delay in families getting the needed services for the funerals. So I'm trying to avoid having everybody having to come to the medical examiner's office. We've established a great framework now where we do a lot of chart reviews, record reviews, interviews with the family, a lot of investigation by Johanna, which we are hopefully going to discuss. Her role as potentially the medical examiner, the medical legal death investigator, which is part of my proposed contract. All of this would hinge on Johanna and hopefully another individual being slotted into a position of medical legal death investigator, like I discussed with the legislature. So with that framework, there has to be a medical legal death investigator that's registered and eventually certified by the APMDI, which is the American Board of Medical Legal Death Investigators. Without that person present in the office, I cannot do remote work. I cannot do remote work with an administrative assistant. The remote work would have to be done with a medical legal death investigator registered and certified by the APMDI. So that would have to be the first step. And then with that in place, medical legal death investigators have the skills and the expertise to do a lot of things that I would say similar to assistants in a medical office, whether they be nurses, whether they be PAs. There's a lot of things that they can do that the medical examiner can then sign off on by reviewing photographs, reviewing their work, reviewing the case histories and summaries and their investigation. So that's my hope, that I can do a lot of those things through Johanna in her eyes and ears and the work that she's doing. As the medical legal death investigator.
So before we get to that point though, where we get an ABMDI certified investigator, in the interim, you're going to be working remotely. So would you just be electronic signature? And do we recognize electronic signature in one? The certified documents?
Yeah, so not so sure at this point, especially with regard to the death certificates. I'm not so sure. That still can be mailed, but I'm not sure offhand. So I have to check that. I can also give, because I can tell there's a lot of back and forth as we did previously with Dr. Mang. We authorize
But this is an important point, Chief, and that's exactly my question. So Dr. Knight, seeing as how you'll be leaving, Island on the 29th, 30th, if something happens, how can we provide for these, interim services while, you may be off island or we're negotiating a final agreement? Is there, is the certification going to take a bit of time? How would we logistically deal with Guam's needs? Do you recommend it?
The registration can happen very quickly. So what it would take is, the first step is for Johanna to be given the position in the government as medical legal investigator. That would be the first step. The registration for the ABMPI is simply, correct me if I'm wrong, Johanna, you have to pay a fee, you have to acknowledge some work that you've done, and maybe Johanna can speak to what those details are. But the registration is different than the certification. After registration, it becomes recognized with APMPI, then she has a certain period of time before she sits for the examination.
So we have present Johanna Bamba at the table. So Johanna, apart, because I understand that there is a bill from Senator Barnett that is to create the position in the office. You obviously are one of the foremost candidates for that position. How long would this take you, even if you wanted to get the certification that Dr. Nine is speaking of? Best case scenario.
So just the registration alone can happen like today.
Yes.
I'm based on the requirements from the National Association of Medical Examiners. I am qualified, including based on the requirements from the ABMBI. I'm also qualified. I do hold all the qualifications. There are just some, there's pretty lengthy applications that I'll have to go through, and I've already been working on that.
Okay. So in terms of like the chief's concern here, we have Dr. Nine, which basically a week left with us. How do we logistically do this? And I know that the cart before the horse is an issue here. Could you literally get certified before the position is opened up so that Dr. Nine from this new location can coordinate with you? Something happens on May 1st or early next month that we need a CME.
Given my role in the medical examiner's office, I do have a very small window of free time. So I am taking this as a priority for me. And I've been working after hours, day and night, trying to get it completed. And hopefully, I have to take the test. So
Okay.
there are, because I'm here on Guam and not off island, I do have to locate a proxy to administer the test. I'm familiar with it because I was a proxy at one time for another individual. And so I am going to try to reach out to UOG to see if they can go ahead and administer or provide a proxy for that.
So my question, I guess, would be best case, worst case scenario. What would be the soonest that you see yourself potentially getting certified by the ABMDI?
Hopefully within a month.
Within 30 days to 60
Yeah.
days. That's our window, right?
Yes.
So my question next, and following up with the chief's concern here, Dr. Nine, under this contract that we're looking at, entering with you, is there anything that would jeopardize, for instance, a criminal case that would need your involvement to perform your services and it would be admissible at court, or any logistical problems that you might see if in early May a problem occurred and you were off island? Would we have to fly in somebody to take care of it, or would Johanna be able to serve under the existing rules?
Yeah, that's a lot of different questions, a lot of different issues. First, I want to clarify, I believe that what Johanna's not talking about is there's a difference between registration with ABMPI and certification.
Okay,
She can get registered tomorrow
right?
with the, that's all I'm asking is that GovLom elevate her or slot her into the medical legal death investigator position, which she's well qualified for, to register with the ABMPI.
But that's not even been our law yet, right? Do we have that in? Right,
And then some of my lead-up questions is, I'm not aware that the government of Guam in the personnel, general pay plan has a medical legal investigator. According to the law, it's up to DOA to establish, the, probably the position description.
Right.
And create the position, and it has to go through posting on the website, for
Exactly.
public comment. So I mean, this is, even if they pass the law today, saying that we're gonna create a medical legal investigator, there's still another process, administrative process to establish the, position description, establish a salary. The law doesn't call for salary, and there's some mention again of post commission.
so Fred, I'm gonna ask you to take a note here. You may have to talk to Senator Barnett about putting it by statute, all these requirements that the chief is duly and properly mentioning. Now,
If I can answer the other question. So that's the first step, is getting her registered with ABMDI. I'm perfectly fine her doing the death investigator work under the title of administrative assistant, as long as she's registered with the ABMDI. There's not gonna be a situation where she's gonna be doing an autopsy or involved in a homicide or some potential suspicious case. She's the front end of the office. She's gonna gather the information, and then we'll discuss how to handle the case. Like I said, like 90% of the work that we do are natural deaths that this commission would never even hear about ever. What we hear about is the 10% of the work we do is the homicides and suspicious cases that are going to require a medical examiner or forensic pathologist. I will be available. I don't start my job in Ohio until May 28th. So I'll be available for that month, and technically I'll still be employed under my current contract until May 17th. So I won't be able to jump planes May 2nd, May 1st, or April 30th with my family. I'll have to wait till we all get to Ohio May 2nd. But I could certainly come back May 3rd, May 4th, anytime after that. And I'm committed to doing that if we need those services. I'd also ask that the commission work very quickly to establish some relations with Dr. Ishikawa, his colleague. I gave you contact information for my colleague in Ohio. All of them are ready and willing to work. And I also, we need to talk about the presence of Dr. Dauterman, who's also like a fallback from the CNMI. He is not a forensic pathologist, so that could cause some legal issues later if you want to have him do a homicide. But he's also something we can fall back on. The difficulties with the commission is, since I've been here, we currently do not have MOUs with any of these forensic pathologists. We do not have a contract with Dr. Dauterman. So those things are going to have to be done post-haste, I believe, to get those done. We can actually reactivate Dr. Dauterman's in some way. That his would be probably the easiest.
So we're gonna enter the local tenants, is that what it's called?
Right,
With the Dr. Donovan.
and that was
Dr. Stahl?
his appointment under the locus tenant. It was done under Dr. Espinola.
Oh, got it.
That's how he got it.
Yeah, so I remember back, prior to, Dr. Nine coming on board, we did have a local tenant, right, Donna, with, Dr. Donovan. And then we also expanded it to Dr. Shikawa and Dr. Lang.
That is correct.
Right, yeah. So it looks like we're going back to that eventually.
So AG, Quentin is correct. We did speak to Ishikawa, and we do need to end it. Dr. Lang said it sounds more like a cost issue, but we haven't engaged yet in serious discussions on what we're looking at.
Got it, understood.
and Dr. Nine, I believe part of the discussions was Dr. Ishikawa wanted to work with under your purview, it sounded like. And Fred might address that.
Sounded more like scheduling, you know what I mean? Who's gonna do when and so forth. So
I've had extensive conversations with Dr. Ishikawa and my colleague in Ohio, and the main concerns with them coming under the previous kind of arrangement was there really was no oversight of the office for the scheduling. There was no kind of direction for a lot of things. No offense to what Johanna was doing, but there was not a good organization. For example, Dr. Ishikawa would say, show up, and then It's like, oh, while you're here, can you do these other things? You know, I'm gonna be there to take care of those other
Scheduling.
things. And so it's a scheduling thing, it's who's gonna be available, and one other thing I was gonna say, but I forgot. But yeah, all of them said that they would prefer, and actually said that they would not work, except within my framework of kind of oversight and scheduling. So they had someone else kind of the buffer for those issues. And they also did say, Dr. Chicago said he would not come for the previously arranged fee, which was 5,000. He said it would have to be 8,000 per case, 8,000 per case. And so that was my thought, was if I stay on in a revised contract format with half of my salary, the other half of that salary would cover the cost of the local tenants pathologist. So that would fit within our budget. The only extra budget we'd be seeking is for the newly created medical legal death investigator.
I have a question. Under this contract that we're looking at modifying or making with you, to continue the current contract that we have with you, would you be able, or do you see any ups or downs with having Joanna under your contract to get her, because I don't know what the logistics are with the government, how long it's going to take us as a government to get the position opened and so forth. Could we use the contract and have a separate amount that we would pay to Joanna, assuming that she was to get a certification from the ABMDI? Is that a workable solution until we get the statute changed? Because I see no problem with doing some form of independent contractor agreement with Joanna, so long as she can get credentialed, and it would come in under this whole Dr. 9 type of contract that we're looking at.
I'll let her speak to the details of that because I know she's ready to say something. But I support that. The problem that I have with Johanna, she's already doing the work of the death investigator without the credentialing certification and without the compensation.
So what I'd be looking at is having you continue in your current position with all the government benefits and so forth, but having a separate contract, which would be under a death investigator, which would basically bill the government when you serve as a death investigator. Because right now, I understand that you're doing the work, not getting paid for it. We don't have the ability to pay you for that work, but we have a need coming May 1st with Dr. 9 that we need a death investigator for him to communicate with you. Otherwise, if you were brought in, I'm just worried about, and I've got the chief prosecutor coming down here. What would be the problem going into court if a defense attorney challenged this arrangement? Because you are not a death investigator and you're not even credentialed right now. And Dr. 9 is on Guam, so he's covering in all the questions and so forth. But once he leaves Guam, my understanding is his certification is subject to attack, that you would not have that available. So I'm trying to find a workaround or a temporary basis. And Joanna, this is going to probably go to you on what would you be willing to do that, getting the registration and so forth. I think we could look at maybe a contract with you directly, provided that the commission members agree with that, so that Dr. 9 has the person on island to do this function.
General Mark,
Yes.
if I may, sir, one concern I would have is Joanna is a classified employee at this time. And it's if she's in that position and if we're going to put her on a contract,
Yes.
that may create some problems.
I think my limited knowledge, and thank you for that, it's a very good question, is that the DOA rules allow for classified employees to have outside employment. And I would probably ask that as a vote to allow the commission to give her that opportunity, at least to open the door. And then you'll have to do some consideration yourself, Joanna. So I'm not trying to put you on the hot seat here, but I mean, at the same time, I see logistical issues to a May 1st situation, or I'm sorry, May 17th, post-May 17th situation. So that we can actually have somebody that can do work that won't be challenging for. So I'll just leave it open. I think for purposes, since we're limited here for our communication, our decision-making authority here, if you wish more time, that's fine. You've just been identified as this best person to fill this type of position. And I know the government right now it's gonna be a feat in order to get this bill passed as quickly as we want. And even then, there may be additional time required. So we need a death investigator, unless we bring somebody in, recruit also a possible death investigator as the next item of our agenda. And we'll negotiate a contract with a death investigator, whether it's from Hawaii or some other place. Sounds like the person would have to be on call full time though. So open to the further discussions. This is brainstorming. We're trying
Yeah,
to.
this won't hamper my current position, because that was my main concern, was what, Commission Member Camacho brought up, was that I am a classified employee.
I believe, and I can be stand corrected on that. I believe you have the authority to do that so long as your hiring authority allows you to do that. So as a commission, I can float a motion from our perspective. Your authority right now might be Dr. Nine, the supervising authority. So,
Can I want to ask clarification on that, because spoke the word register and certified. You said you were okay if Johanna performed the work just as a registered, and she didn't need to be certified yet.
That's typically how the ABMGI works. You register as a medical legal death investigator. You have to have certain qualifications just to meet that registration. It's not just anybody can register. You have to have certain exposure to medical examiner work, investigating scenes, investigating cases, minimum level of education. So it's not just something you pay your $50 and get a certificate. You have to, and then the next step after that is passing the certification examination. It's much like physicians, we need a minimum level to become a physician, but if you want to be a cardiac surgeon, then there's another level above that. So Johanna would be registered as a death investigator.
Yeah.
would she have all the authority of a death investigator once upon registration until she passes the exam?
Yes, and I believe that would rest on my office and the policies that we're going to make. We would say, within this situation, we recognize that the government has created the position and the need and recognize the need for the death investigator. I would say Johanna, in our policies and procedures, is performing that activity, and she has the certain registration as a death investigator. We're just waiting for the, like you said, the cart before the horse a little bit. The cart's not too far behind, the horse is not too far behind, but we're getting.
If we can just use the example that the legislature is not able to pass that law and DOA isn't able to create the death investigator position, would you be hampered if you left Island and Joanna wasn't in that position yet? Could you do this work that we're talking about?
I could do this work as long as this commission is willing to say, yes, we recognize the role that Johanna has as death investigator, although her position in the government is administrative assistant. I don't want her to have to go to court and someone say, you did this work as an administrative assistant. We have to have the backing of this commission.
Yeah, I think that we would have a problem as a commission passing something like that, because we can't certify unless it's under that. I get it.
I'm not asking you to certify her. I'm asking this commission to say, yes, we recognize she's doing the work of a death investigator and she's working towards that certification. It's just that she doesn't have that position in the government. I don't know how we're going to work that. I don't have a problem with it. I don't have a problem. I'm going to do it anyway, frankly, because she's the only option.
And that's where my concern comes in, is saying, as a commission, me as a commission member myself, saying that Joanna meets the requirements of a death investigator, because I haven't read that AMDI, whatever. I also don't have a position description that's been established to say that I know that Joanna meets the qualification. Again, we go back to the position has to have a
Chief, I understand that. Let me just lay it, there's two options on the table here. One of them is not a good option. May 17th, my contract is done and you won't hear from me again. That's the one option. The second option is May 17th comes, we've revised my contract to be able to work with Johanna in this position, and I will manage the office from a distance and try to bring it into a position that I think is stable. I don't mean to be blunt or rude about it, but there's there's not too many other options. Dr. Ishikawa and his colleagues, my colleague in Ohio, are not going to come to Guam to do the locum tenens cases without this kind of framework or place.
Right.
And if I can't get the commission to buy into this kind of framework, then I'm going to have to say, look, I just can't do it. I don't have the personnel in place. It's risky for me to even do it with Johanna without another other staff in the office. It'd be great. She needs more support. I mean, she's already doing 3 people's jobs. She's doing the work of death investigator. She's doing the work of administrative officer. She's doing the work of administrative assistant. She's doing the work of clerk 2. I mean, she's doing all those things and she's getting paid for one job. So I can't stress how difficult this is, how important it is, and how much I want to see that office continue. I put a lot of my blood, sweat, and tears into this to bring it to a place that I think is stable and attractive to another forensic pathologist. I don't want to leave on technically May 17th and just say, you know, I'm done. I can't help except to come back and do my
Let's talk to that. When you leave on May 1st, or when you leave on April 30th, and you exhaust your leave on May 17th, which is your final day, and you do enter into this agreement, Joanna will still be there, so whether or not she's a death investigator or admin assistant or a clerk too, Johanna will still be there, so we still have that continuity. Because we're kind of going around the circles now with this death investigator, and there's a lot that has to be done before we get there. The bill has to become law. It's just been introduced, and as you know, it's got to go through the whole public hearing, get on the agenda, get voted on. The other thing that Mr. Peter John kind of mentioned to me is, could we also explore with the governor? Could this position be created for executive order? We haven't exhausted the different ways that we can. The other way is we don't have to get a bill or law, a bill passed into law. We don't have to get an executive order. We just petition the Department of Administration to create a new position, and then it goes through the public hearing process. So, in the interim, are you comfortable that you're going to enter into a new contract with the Post-Mortem Commission? Johanna's still going to be there doing all the work that she does. And I understand, you know, I would fight to for Johanna. She's a very valuable employee. You want to get her to a better place in terms of her experience and salary.
Agreed. That was the question. Logistics.
I'm comfortable with the revised contract as I presented to General Moyman and Administrator Prasad. And I would like to work under that framework, and I think that's the best option for the office to continue. That, in my understanding, is that the commission has to accept that contract and vote to revise it, and I would receive a revised contract. I don't know the details.
Right. So once we get that in place, can you perform the services that you're promising to perform and work with Johanna in a non-death investigator certified role? Continue with that while we move to get her position opened up.
Yes, there are a couple things we need to iron out for that, because
Okay.
I'm putting myself at a little bit of professional risk to do this without Johanna recognized as the death investigator.
Okay.
So I'm uncomfortable with that. I'm uncomfortable having her do that work as an administrative assistant. I mean, Dr. Prince can understand this. He wouldn't leave his office to a front desk secretary, no offense, but that's really what Johanna's kind of position is under what she's doing. And he knows that probably his front desk secretary could manage the office fine, but you're putting yourself at professional risk. You know, you just can't leave without those things in place. I feel fully comfortable with the work that Johanna's doing, and she does 90% of my work when I'm not even in the office. The other question that I have we need to iron out is I have been using my digital signature, a copy of my signature on the death certificates, and the Bureau of Vital Statistics has been accepting that. They think it's perfectly fine. So we have to continue with that. I've been using it on the cremation authorizations and the removal from state requests. I'm perfectly fine with that. So I don't have to physically sign every piece of paper that Johanna puts across my desk. I'm sure a lot of us have had similar situations. I'm perfectly fine working under that circumstance. So those are the two things. And I'm just asking for the commission to consider those things. I don't think we need to vote on it, if there needs to be a statement from the commission, because you all manage the office. I need some support other than my saying Johanna is a good person. For the commission to say, yes, we're okay with Johanna acting as medical legal death investigator, and doing the work of the death investigator. We're okay with Dr. Nine continuing with the digital signatures on the death certificates, with the cremation requests and things like that.
On the digital signature question, is there anything that prevents, if we did find an issue that it wasn't signed on Guam, we'll have to research that. We could literally just FedEx it to you. You can sign it, in Ohio,
So
and then have it sent back.
that's at least that's a week to 10-day probably process.
Right.
And then you're further delaying the funeral home and all the burials. That's the
We'll get to
reason
the
we wanted this option.
We just want to make sure it's legally correct. But you're doing it right now, so it's working. So I'm gonna kind of sidestep that issue. Commissioners,
And I just have one quick input. So with regard to Dr. Nine's request, that's reasonable. The law authorizes the commission. Actually, I'll read it because it's easier. The office shall be directed by the chief medical examiner and may employ such assistant medical examiners, list all the names. And then it says, and other staff members as the commission may specify.
yeah, but we can't certify death investigators. That's the problem.
Correct. So the ones you want to get for the support of Dr. Nine for the record purpose, right, is you want to get that death certificate on the record. That way he has his protection that is considered. In the meantime, Dr. Nine, if you know any other positions besides administrative assistant that are currently in the GovWAM specifications, because that's a member if it's already listed. So if they're called just an autopsy investigator, I'm making it up, but whatever may be in our job listing, I can provide that job listing that we have in GovWAM. But if we have that, then that's very easy for the commission to approve and authorize positions. So Johanna would be, whatever that position is, she get her certificate, and then you'd be able to operate under that.
Yeah, I thank you. So what I'm proposing to the commission members is that the motion include that not only that we approve or start the negotiations and drafting of the contract for Dr. Nine, but also that Johanna have the ability to enter into a independent contractor agreement to include the death investigator certification, which she will register for. And I guess alternatively, that Dr. Nine will continue using Johanna as he is right now. Because the main idea is to keep you with us. That's where I'm focusing on. So as long as you're okay, because there's going to be a lag, there's no way around this, I think. But if Johanna wants to turn in her registration, I would endorse a contract with you. It means more money for you, Johanna. And then once you get your death investigator certification, it'll be up to you. Well, once you get that and then get the legislature, we'll get the legislature to try to pass that. But that's a what if on that particular thing. But we do not want you to overextend yourself that you feel that there may be a problem dealing with, because I think you said there's a professional question potentially if you were using Joanna.
I think Dr. Prince has.
Yeah, so in regards to this, Dr. Nine, I guess what you're trying to get, and maybe I can summarize a little bit differently for everybody. So there needs to be like a time limit for Dr. Nine to enter in this agreement with Johanna as the current role you're sitting right now. So because otherwise it could be open-ended, and then Dr. Nine most likely, I'm not trying to put any words in his mouth, is that he may say after 6 months, I don't like this agreement, nothing has gone forward. I will not be taking my hand out of the ring, per se, quote unquote. So I think we need to, as if I could recommend to the commission, is to actually, number one, figure out what the normal time is to get this certification. Just actually like what Chief said, there are multiple ways to go about getting this through the government of this potential investigator. And I do like the idea with there may be another route within the DOA of a different name that you can slot yourself in that. But I think for the purposes of legal representation, Dr. Nye needs to make sure that he is fully covered under all things regarding legal, and this is a very important reason.
Very good. So we have our chief prosecutor present with us, and Gloria Rudolph. Gloria, thank you for being present. We have Dr. Nine will be leaving us within the next week or so, physically leaving us, but his relationship as a employee will not end until May 17th. I believe that we're going to put on the table a motion to allow us to negotiate a contract with Dr. Nine. A logistical issue is Joanna here. She is not a death investigator, but has been doing the work of a death investigator. Dr. Nine is giving us different options available to us. If Dr. Nine was off island and communicating with a person that should be a death investigator, could that cause a problem on a prosecution that the defense attorneys bring up a certification problem? That Dr. Nine was off island dealing with a non-certified death investigator. Have you ever heard of this being challenged in the criminal courts? Because it's usually our CME, right? They come in and they explain the process and so forth.
Yes, and once they're gone, they can stay gone, in terms of like ongoing investigations. That doesn't really occur. In the past, that's how it's been, but also the death investigator role, right, has never been filled. So that's what we're trying to
William,
change.
turn on her mic. Is your mic on green? Thank you. So you've never heard of a death investigator being challenged by the defense bar?
Well, I guess they never had an occasion to do so because there wasn't one. Isn't that correct?
So it's basically the CME was the one that was
Yes, Mr.
testifying to everything.
Nola in the past, it was just the one person.
If I can, I mean, death investigators are very common in the medical examiner world. Every office has them. They oftentimes go to court. Some of them are certified by the ADMDI, some of them are not. So I've not heard of anyone can be challenged by the defense in court. Obviously, I want this commission to help me, like Dr. Prince said, create some protections. So if I'm working off island, this commission kind of has to have my back. If this commission doesn't have my back, I'm not going to work off island.
I agree.
That's the basic. So if the commission can't come to that agreement, I'm going to be done May 17th. Because I do not want to put myself in a professional jeopardy or even legal jeopardy to do something that is not recognized by my profession. What I can say my profession recognizes, and I've worked in situations before where a death investigator, whether they're registered or certified, I think for me that's just semantics. Registration is as good as certification. The time frame is 2 years, I believe, from the time of registration to become certified. But I would want her to, I don't want to put that stress on her. The time frame for this commission is to recognize her as a registered death investigator.
Okay.
So what I've said, what's common in the forensic pathology world, medical examiner world, is recognized as an acceptable practice as a death investigator can do things like external examinations, review cases for record review, provide all this information, give documentation, give photographs, collect specimens, collect blood, collect urine, do at the bedside drug tests. All these things are recognized that death investigators can do. And then the forensic pathologist receives that information and can sign off on it, even though that was done remotely by a death investigator. Many states in the nation, in the United States, have large offices that cover large geographic areas, and they can't provide a forensic pathologist to every one of those remote institutions. That's, there's about 1,000 positions that are needing to be filled in the country from forensic pathologists, and only about 500 practicing forensic pathologists. So that's why it's hard to get someone to go on. So that's why this model is not something that I'm just dreaming of. It's something that's been recognized. But the commission has to accept that and have my back, but we can't do it.
Understood. Doctor, how many death investigators would you recommend be available for your office?
I think the gold standard, like I said in the legislative hearing, is roundtable is 4. Because if you have 4 death investigators, they can cover a 24/7 schedule. The best option for any medical examiner's office is to have a death investigator on call 24/7. If you can't have 4, I would say minimum of 2, because then you can do some different scheduling. You can't just have 1. Johanna can't just be the 1. She can't be on call 24/7, the rest of her life. But she is already most of the time. But we need to recognize that.
So, Chief, let's get down to the bones of our motion. So I have on my list here, and would entertain a motion to authorize the negotiations for drafting an agreement with Dr. Nine. Second one is to authorize a contract to be entered into with Johanna in order to provide for a death investigator services. This is Johanna Bamba. And then number 3 would be having the authorization for the medical examiner's office to work with, I guess, the Attorney General's office to get the Department of Administration to start the process for up to 4 death investigators, understanding that that's going to probably take months to get effectuated, absent legislative action and the governor, which we would also endorse. But I think logistically, the commission authorizing us to work with DOA to get this position open, if we can do that. So, Director Camacho, Chief, do you see an additional items that we should discuss?
No, sir, I think that sums it up.
So, would any commission member like to put on the table a motion to address Dr. Nine's concerns?
Sure. I make a motion to adopt the entering into a new contract, working with Joanna for a external outside employment type of arrangement contract.
And to allow her to enter into
To allow her
the
to-
DOA rules? Okay,
Then work with DOE on the positions.
thank you. And that'll be up to four positions of death investigators, as per the recommendation of Dr. Nine. Do I have a second on the motion? Thank you. Any further discussion?
No.
So raise your right hands, please. In favor? Thank you. Unanimous pass. So Dr. Nine, we will work towards this end on getting this done. Okay. Thank you. Our next on our agenda is the recruitment of the new chief medical examiner for Dr. Nine, as he has indicated. My understanding is this contract would be interim in nature, that we would enter into with Dr. Nine. And he has been working with our office, and it's part of our packet here, in order to start a recruiting process for a full-time on-island medical examiner. The commissioners are welcome to look at our progress to date. Most notably, Dr. Nine has provided his draft for recruiting type of question, I guess, flyer out there, for lack of a better word. The services have been invaluable towards helping us understand the market out there, what is the market rate, what they would be looking at, and that is on page 30 of the packet. And our office is prepared to perform all these services, and obviously, once we get the recruiting applications in, we'll circulate it among the commission members and have a meeting on that, as well as probably get Dr. Nine's input on selecting, hopefully if we're in that position, to select from a list of applicants for CME for Guam. Very good.
Yes, thank you for mentioning that, General. I mean, so that's exactly what I would want to do
Excellent.
as well.
Definitely.
And then also, can I just make a quick mention regarding the job announcement and the flyer? The minimum salaries are different.
Oh, no. Duly noted.
I just want to make sure.
We're starting at 300 and the bidding's going up.
I just want to make sure because I see on the.
Yeah, we are.
I just want to make, because I don't know if that could be a totally different.
Well, we give great weight to Dr. Nine's understanding of the market out there. So we will try not to turn people away with a figure on our application. Or what is it, or best offer, price negotiable? We'll put a lot of caveats in there with the lawyers, so we'll give them a lot of latitude. So in that regard, I take it, would the commission float a motion in order for us to start the recruiting process? And then bring back to the commission and work with Dr. Nine in terms and the GMH to draft a recruiting, I guess, outreach and what the terms would be. That would be, we have a motion for that.
I'd like to make that motion.
Thank you. So we will, the motion is to start the recruiting process and work with Dr. Nine on the parameters for that recruiting and to bring back any of the applicants to the commission for consideration. Do we have a second to the motion?
A second.
Thank you. Any discussion on it further? Please raise your right hand and for that motion. Unanimous? So duly passed. Now, the next update is budgetary update from Joanna Bomba.
So currently, we have been approved this fiscal year, a little over 700,000. About almost half of that goes to just salaries. At 346,000, a little over 346,000. And then we also had to account for any overtime, which is very minimal. I'm very strict about our budget. And so I do spend money, the government's money, very strictly.
Thank you.
And then as far as, I can itemize it if you want, but I can give you the totals if that's even better.
You know, Joanna, did you happen to did we get a packet? Is this in our packet?
No.
Budget proposal? The legislature's already started their budget drafts, right? They're receiving them.
Yes,
Did we submit anything to the legislature
for
yet?
2025?
For the next fiscal year?
Yes, we have.
Okay, maybe if we can get a copy circulated to us here. I asked that because of the government's strong financial condition right now, that you take Dr. Nine's, 4 death investigators, incorporated it into a proposed budget, and everything else that Dr. Nine is requesting, so that we can give and if we need to update it, I think we'll be able to update it at the next hearing, commission hearing meeting. So can we do that?
Yes.
Unless you guys have certain questions of her, we can get by that. I think there's a high confidence and trust in your office.
I think the only thing that I want to bring up for this fiscal year is because we're going to go into contracts with several physicians, and I do understand that it's going to be on an as-needed basis. We do have to have funds available prior to having the contracts established, and we have to kind of give a lump sum amount per contract. That's my concern right now is I understand Dr. Nine may have half of his salary still available for usage, but I'm projecting,
Excess. There's gonna
I'm
be an
always
additional-
going to project above what we need in case of anything, unforeseen events.
Yes.
And it does happen in our office often.
Exactly. I think that's, please make sure that your budget would not require a supplemental appropriation. Because right now, we're already in the budget year. I presume that you're going to be falling short under this current budget year. Is that
Based on if we do have the contracts in place, that's possible to happen.
so we may need to ask for a supplemental budget at some point, but I'm looking at possibly recessing this meeting and coming back so that we can discuss that issue, maybe before the next meeting that you can submit it to the commission members in advance, so we can take a look at it. But definitely whatever Dr. Nine is projecting, that can be incorporated into it. I guess, commission members, the current budget, supplemental for that, as well as the next budget cycle, what we're projecting, assuming we don't have a CME on board yet, which is usually higher, more expensive, I presume, is going to be the case until we get a full-time CME. But that would be my understanding that we could get from your office.
From my past experience, with the, off-island forensic pathologist, if you calculate just the one, for instance, one examination, and then also other expenses, you're looking at maybe per visit, you're looking at about almost 20,000.
Now,
Almost.
that's
20.
an additional to be paid in addition to the existing staff.
Yes,
So
that's for the forensic
For the contract.
pathologist, yes. The locum tenant.
General, and
yes,
in regards to this, Joanna, how often do you expect someone to come on island to do this service? Are we thinking once a month, twice a month, once a quarter? So then we can understand more what this 20,000 would be, or could be 26 or 28, because Dr. Nine mentioned that Dr. Sushikawa was thinking instead of 5, he wants 8,000. So that's per case, correct? So we need to think about this as well. What do you project, if I can ask you that question?
So
From the past experience, the forensic pathologists, they only came in on an as needed basis. There were times where they did come in twice a month. And then as far as the general pathologist, which would be Dr. Dodderman, if the commission agrees, he was coming in almost every week to every 2 weeks, depending on the caseload. But again, please keep in mind that since Dr. Nine has been on board, he has made a lot of changes and has decreased that. We were doing practically almost every single death on bond. And that's, thoroughly looking and doing examinations on every single death. And you're talking about even somebody who's been established as an imminent death hospice patient with 24-hour care from a medical physician or a medical staff. We were bringing them in before they were cremated or removed from one. That is not the case anymore.
And maybe I could just address that a little bit. My intention is with this cadre of forensic pathologists that they would only come from homicides. Last year, we registered 5 homicides. I would, to be safe, I would say we would expect maybe between 10 and 20, maybe kind of budget between 10 and 20 for the forensic pathologist to come in, because sometimes the cases are suspicious, the forensic pathologist comes in, it's not a homicide, or there are some other things that we need to work through. So what Johanna was mentioning is that we've severely reduced the number of cases that have to come to our office. So those are the cases that I would be managing.
is that Dr. Dodderman? We can do a forensic.
Dr. Dodderman can do non-forensic.
Non-forensic.
He can do non-forensic cases. So the non-homicides, I would feel comfortable having Dr. Dodderman do motor vehicle crashes and suicides if they needed to be. But we've also gotten to the point in our office where we don't have to do autopsies on all of those cases. So Johanna can still do a lot of those cases. So what I'm trying to do is cut down the number of visits that forensic pathologists have to make, because that's expensive. And I'm also trying to cut it down because it becomes more attractive to another chief medical examiner. That's, I think, why we had difficulty before I came. It's not attractive to a forensic pathologist to say, I have to do 850 examinations here. It's way far outside the main recommendations. So what I did, my first thing was to kind of bring those down. I think we brought in maybe 250 cases to look at. And we did maybe 70 autopsies. I think we can even do fewer autopsies. So I would say between 10 and 20 of those would require a forensic pathologist. The other ones I would recommend the commission contract with Dr. Dollarman to bring in if we need to do autopsies on the non-forensic cases. All the non-autopsy cases, Johanna and I can do those together with her doing the work of the death list.
So, I think the status of the local tenants, local tenants.
That would be the contracts with the other pathologists and with Dr. Donovan, which we don't have contracts right now.
Right, what is your understanding right now?
So we had none of those had expiration dates because it was just like Joanne said, as a needed basis, so call them over.
Except for Dr. Dotterman, he was on a yearly basis.
I mean, oh, yearly, oh, we didn't renew.
We didn't renew with him.
So Doc, before you leave, if you could appoint him too, because you're the only person that can appoint.
I'm working on the contract at this time, and hopefully by the end of the week, it should be processed within, it should be received by your office.
So, commission members, may I have a motion to allow the medical examiner's office to work with the AG's office on developing these interim contracts with Dr. Dotterman and anyone else for the commission's review at the next commission meeting?
I'd like to make that motion.
Thank you, Director.
A second.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Please raise your right hands if you guys are in agreement. Unanimously passed. So we'll put that also as another order of the commission. Okay, unless there's any other business to discuss, is there anything else, Doctor, you wanted to speak with the commission about? No. Thank you very much for all that you've done for our island people. And thank you, Joanna, for your comments on how frugal you scrutinize the budget. We all appreciate it. Thank you. I would like to recess this meeting as opposed to calling another meeting. Yeah, can I see my calendar, please? Is there any timeframes that anyone has that might limit us on the scope of our next meeting, investing on the amount of time that we need? Because Dr. 9 is, I guess, ending as of May 15th, I'm sorry, May 7th, 17th, sorry, May 17th. I think we need to meet before then, maybe a week before then. So are there concerns on scheduling matters? Director Posadas was going to be back again at the end of May, right?
Correct. Yes, sir. That's exactly what I was going to mention to you. So if we are doing this before the end of May, then we still have.
Which is fine with me and with all deference to Director Posadas. So Administrator Posadas. Yes, Chief.
Yeah, so from May 10th to May 18th, I'll be very busy. We have a police activity.
Okay, okay. So it looks like possibly, Director, thank you very much. I will be available to, let's see here. Deb, please. So we're looking at before May 10th, it looks like on our schedule. So it will give us more time to negotiate these agreements. May 10 is a Friday. I'm sorry, that's May 10th is Friday. May 10 is a Friday.
I have proclamation signing on that day for police week.
Okay, so May 8th or May 9th? May 9th?
I could do appreciate. So the proclamations at 10 in the morning.
Okay,
So I can do afternoon if you want to do it, or if not, we can do.
let's try a Thursday, May 9th. Okay, so shall we meet at 10 o'clock? Same conference room. So it'll be May 9th at 10 a.m. at this location. We shall recess the meeting until such time to further discuss the items that we have today brought up. Okay. May we have a motion for that and a vote?
Motion to recess till May 8th at 10 a.m.
Thank you. Second to the motion. No further discussion. Raise your right hands, please. Unanimous. So we are recessing, and Freddie Shiro will make sure that we're in compliance with the open government law in terms of our notice. At that, I'd like to adjourn this meeting and, I'm sorry, to recess this meeting and to thank you all for being present.